That was awesome. The Zoom stuff still was set up from last time, so I didn't have to redo any
Oh,
screens.
nice.
Yeah. So you are right there. Thank you and welcome. This is uh, your brand, your business, and we are continuing today with the going full time checklist that we had started based off of the panel that Galen and I did. Um, Again, this is the no longer super secret work in progress going full time checklist. Um, Now, it's your turn again for that. I hope you're all doing well. I guess I should have just started with that, right? I hope you're all doing well. This is probably going to be the last your brand, your business of the year, given that it's a week from Christmas Eve. Can you believe
Yep.
that? That's crazy.
Yep. Which means it's only 2 weeks from New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that's insane. I don't even know where the year went, man. The last 2 months have been like a blur.
Yeah, well, you have a really good excuse.
Well, yeah, kid aside, everything else has still been a blur too. Like I don't remember anything that happened. From now on, all of my life is going to be pre-kid and after kid, right? So it's almost like before common era and after common era. So yeah, but it is what it is. Let's do back to our catchphrase, which is Galen saying "last time on your brand, your business" in Dragon Ball Z voice.
Oh God.
Yeah, we're gonna
Oh
do that all
gosh.
the time now.
Ugh.
That's gonna be a weekly tradition. You have to do that every week.
That's, that's, we'll do a little bit of the stretching first.
Vocal
Well,
stretching, vocal
yeah,
exercises. Yeah.
exactly. I see. I should learn those things because my wife sings and did for most of her like high school and even before
That's
then.
awesome.
Yeah, but she also like took voice lessons and learned how to not shred her voice.
Yeah.
Whereas like had we had more people over last night, instead of it just being like a kind of relaxed thing,
Hmm.
I would be barely talking today. Um, all right, let's see. Previously on your brand, your business.
There we
What
go.
what did we
Yeah.
cover?
We covered the silver and
That's
gold
right.
portions.
We talked about what it looks like when you've been powering up for a while.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Nice segue there. All right.
yeah, thank you.
Nice
I had
tie-in.
to I had
Yeah.
to remind myself what it was that we were talking about. It's been a week, man. Like
Yeah.
how am I supposed to remember what happened last week?
At the same time, it's like when you say it's been a week, part of me is thinking like it's only been a week, like it's been that quick, and then the other time is like I can't believe all of that was like, it seems like we just did it.
Yeah,
The-
yeah. Well,
that
that's why
needless
I
to
have a
say,
CRM
yeah,
is to remind me of these things.
I need to get one of those. Why don't you really quickly explain to people in chat what a CRM is?
Oh yeah, CRM. It depends on your industry what the C
Yeah.
stands for. Client or customer relationship manager. It's just
Yes.
software that is. If you get a really good CRM, it is something that holds all of your contacts, a la the old school. The hell are those things called now?
Rolodexes.
Rolodexes.
Yeah.
I got there. Like the old school, it's like the mixture of a Rolodex, but then it also, if you get a good one, and especially one that's focused on what you do. So for us, professional services things,
Mhm.
it'll include the capability to send and store email or to set up tasks to have automated workflows go through. So like for me, it's really useful because whenever I think of something that I need to do for a client, I just put it in there. And even if it's like 6 months out, I just put it in there as a task or a reminder or something. And then at the time that I set, it pops up and says to me, hey, you said you were going to do this.
Yep.
And I have to be like, oh shit, right, of course. And then I actually do it as opposed to forgetting. And,
Or the
helps me
automated stuff.
keep
Yeah.
clients. And then, right. And then there's automated stuff like when you add someone or if you put a specific tag on them or something like that, it starts different workflow processes. But
Basically, when you get an email from your car insurance guy, that's courtesy of a CRM. Like a birthday email from your car insurance guy, that's courtesy
Absolutely.
of a CRM. Yep.
Yep.
Which is
Absolutely.
quite useful.
I can't keep all of that straight.
No, yeah. So I think that's definitely a work in progress for me also, and these are the topics that we will be discussing in the future. And like, so if why don't we just jump on it very briefly while we're here? This is definitely a little bit outside of going full time, but it's still part of it. It's still developing good business practices, or as Galen likes to say, what is it? Business hygiene or finance
Business
hygiene?
hygiene.
Business
Yep,
hygiene.
business hygiene.
Right. So this is good business hygiene, basically keeping in contact with your supporters, which in this case would be your subscribers, your viewers, and whatever, right? So that's social media, right? It's scheduling tweets on weekly tweets to say when you're going live, or if it's your off day. This is what impresses, one of the things that impresses me the most. People who regularly schedule a tweet saying that this is my off day, just a reminder, no stream today, but I'll see you again when, right? Like, it's just that constant contact, especially in this day and age when there's so much like oversaturation of just things vying for your attention. Like, sometimes you just have to be repeatedly to make sure that you're like, that's why you get those AM bumps for different announcements or whatever, right? It's basically just making sure people see what you're trying to put out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And again, at least for me, it helps me remember like all the things we talked about, dates and stuff like that. But then also, yeah, have I not been in contact with this person for a while? Because there are times when just not much is going on, but you still want to keep in touch. And you maybe want to take some of that time when not much is going on to tackle some tasks that you wouldn't normally do if everyone was busy. But like,
exactly.
For streamers, it's a little interesting since you are in contact with a lot of your, or a good chunk of your audience at least, every time that you're streaming, right? Which is different, obviously, than because for most folks who are at least looking to go full time, that could be every day, pardon me, or most days. So it's a little different there. But I know I appreciate it when I get, a message on Twitch that goes out to all subs or something like that, just talking about what's going on with the stream, or saying, hey, we've got this event coming up, don't forget. Like, it's nice. I see those.
Yeah,
I like
and that's basically, Twitch has some nice CRM stuff built in, like sub newsletters.
Yeah.
Right, and dashboard. Not dashboard. What's that? Pulse. Right, that social feed or whatever that's on Twitch, and then go live notifications if you have your Twitch app and stuff like that. And this works pretty well, even though this is a bit of a tangent on our going full time. This does relate to our later topic of finding. Of personal and mental issues when it comes to going full time. One of the major ones being finding balance, right? So CRM can be a very useful tool, but in this case, it could be a double-edged sword in that, like, you're almost setting up yourself to be, you're expected to be live 24/7, right? Or like at least some sort of online presence 24/7, and we'll get into that. I will say this, that Galen and I will cover the steps that we had presented on the panel today, just to complete this checklist, and so we can get it ready to go. These steps are ones that we had talked about and discussed with actual content creators. And in case those of you who are wondering, like, these guys aren't streamers, they're not full-time content creators, which we're not. We're not trying to be. We're not trying to pass ourselves off as that right now. But we have worked closely with content creators, especially in this regard, being the personal and mental balance, and so we are presenting their steps. We would love to be able to get a few of them in the future to be on the show with us, to actually give us more color commentary, if you will, more in-depth discussion regarding those steps, and what is their take on finding personal balance, on doing personal sacrifices, that kind of thing, right? And having support networks, which I'm foreshadowing some of our steps right now, right? So for those literature people out there. Now, we will present those steps right now, but going back to what I mentioned, being a CRM as being a double-edged sword, it's that some of it can help you find that balance, where if you do too much of it, it almost kind of sets up a unrealistic expectation on the viewer's part, on your community members' part, and whatsoever.
And with your CRM, there's always more you could do.
Yes.
Just like a lot of things, just like your business, there's always more you could do, which is the danger part of there's always more you could do. More
isn't necessarily better. Yeah. Okay, but so just to recap a bit, this is our Going Full-Time checklist. It's based off of a panel that Galen and I did along with Hunter Wild TV, Stella Chu, who is a cosplayer and content creator also, and Julian, who is the vice president of business development at Nerd Fusion, the content creation team. This checklist is based off of 3 different levels. We have the bronze stage, the silver stage, and the gold stage of content creators. Bronze being what we believe covers 99% of the Twitch community. Then silver and gold being those who are maybe doing content creation on a part-time basis to support themselves on a part-time basis, and then those doing it who are able to support themselves on a full-time basis. You'll notice in previous episodes, which we will try to make those available, that we had covered the business and personal finance aspect of it, and as well as the legal aspect of it. In case you aren't aware, Galen is a financial planner. I'm a licensed attorney, so those are our areas of expertise. So the mental and personal side isn't necessarily our area of expertise, but that's
probably a good point at which to throw in
disclaimer. Yep. We need a
disclaimer.
We didn't get that disclaimer tag up yet. Okay, so anyway, disclaimer. Let's just actually, I wonder if I can do that.
Yeah, I can do it. Why don't you send me what you use and I can just add it.
Okay, well, I was actually just going to pull. Here, I'll show you. I'll send you what I use right now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just going to copy and paste it into chat because I can do that. And then
got it.
The other thing I was going to do was this. I wonder if this will work. Did that work? Hey, there we go. So these are the slides. These are the slides from our going full-time panel, right? So this is the name of it. It's dangerous to go full-time. Take this business advice. Galen, while you're copying and pasting stuff, do you want to make a command for our VOD with the link to our VOD?
The YouTube one that Loco did, yeah.
Or of the panel.
Oh, I can do that.
You could do the VOD.
I might have that.
Yeah.
But
so this is our disclaimer now. We are not from Twitch. Our opinions are our own and do not reflect Twitch. The information we're sharing today is for educational purposes and is not legal, financial, accounting, and or tax advice. No attorney-client or confidential relationship exists. So we are doing this from a educational perspective. But these are the panelists that we had the fortune of working with. Look at these two handsome gentlemen right here. Right.
I might have already made it. Yep. Boom. Already made
it. There. Very nice. And then this was the different stages that we talked about. Bronze, silver, and gold. We should have just done this actually for our recaps before. The bronze stage being the 99% and then stuff like that. So actually, what we're going to do now is cover the personal and mental side of the checklist, which is, so let's go ahead and add this to our checklist now. I'm going to Control-C that.
And a lot of this ends up being very individual.
Yes.
Because we each have our things that are and are not significant to us in terms of, and our own past life experiences and all those kinds of things. Yeah. So, we can talk a bit about what we've gone through as business owners. We can talk a bit about what came up on the panel itself, and give some general themes. But overall, it's going to really depend a lot on you.
Yes. That is very true.
Part of it will just be knowing that there are these things that are possible, but, if I could predict my mental emotional state for some event in the future, I would be very surprising.
And we don't, one important thing to kind of mention is that although this is the kind of, we put this after the business and personal finance side and also the legal side, but that does not mean it's any less important. In fact, I would argue that this is almost more important than the business and personal and the legal side, because and I could speak from personal experience, both as a professional and as a business owner, and also, being a student even before I became a professional. It's just that if your mental and personal stuff is not, I don't want to say on point. What's a better phrase than on point? If you're not right? If you're not set in your mental and personal side, that negatively affects every single other portion of it. Your profession, your personal life, like I think there's a really depressing statistic out there that like attorneys have one of the highest percentages of alcoholics in the profession, or alcoholism in the profession. I think like it's only second to doctors or something like that.
Doctors are the highest. Doctors are also the highest for just general substance abuse.
Yeah.
And part of the why is they have access.
They have access,
like,
right? Yeah.
They're feeling a ton of stress because they're doctors just like other professionals, but they have prescription pads and just closets of drugs. I don't maintain closets of drugs, so even if I like was feeling that way, I wouldn't have access.
Yeah. Sorry, just replying to some stuff in chat. But then, and I think that's mainly the thing. Also, it's just, and that's not to say that content creation is a stressless job either, or a short job without stress. That's an extremely stressful job. And then you have to take into all the considerations when it comes to maintaining a online public persona, right?
Yep.
And then I can guarantee you, well, I can't guarantee, I can almost guarantee you that Galen and I won't have to deal with any stalkers, right? Or like unwanted attention unlikely. Or negative attention of some degree.
Mostly because my wife is jealous and would just reverse stalk them. And so people just ahead of time are like, never mind, it's not worth it.
Mine's because my wife is scary. She's going to scare away anybody who tries to stalk me, right? But beyond that, it's probably because we're not exactly the kind of person that would warrant stalking, right? And you can take that as you will. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're any other kind of content creator, I think that's, you're an online public persona. Some people really come to feel that they've developed a relationship with you based off of viewing your stream. And that's entirely okay. Right, because that might be something you're trying to promote also, that you are a very approachable streamer, you're a very community-focused streamer and stuff like that. But then at some point there does have to be that disconnect, and you have to, content creation is a very new industry with its own very unique issues, this being one of them. So a lot of the other issues that we talked about from the business and legal side were to help mitigate some of those issues, such as protecting your identity, right? Separating you from your brand, planning and making sure you have, separation between, don't use your legal name as your online screen name or anything. Create a bank account and PayPal, other stuff that's separate from your personal stuff, because some people who are stalking you do some with
are pretty good at it.
Are good at it, and they also
or dedicated.
They're dedicated, and they also do it with negative intentions, right? They're seeking to harm you in some kind, so that's why you need that separation. And I think that's so. Going back to what we mentioned earlier, the mental and personal aspects are just as important as the business and legal aspects. Everything is kind of tied together, also. So they're all. You need to make sure that you're taking care of these aspects to make sure you can adequately take care of the other aspects. And then finally, these different levels, our bronze stage, our silver stage, and then our gold stage, are different levels in that they're kind of like a skill tree. So the stuff that you have to take care of in the silver stage, they all started as a foundational basis at the bronze level. So that's why today we're actually, in the previous episodes, we covered one section at a time. And we're still going to do that, but we're actually covering the personal, mental aspect for all three. So we're going to go from, you'll see that kind of progression of the skill tree there more clearly in this episode. But why don't we kind of start with the personal and mental considerations for the bronze level, which is what I have here. Galen, do you want to kind of discuss what we talked about on the panel?
Yeah. So one of the big things that we talked about when you're starting to stream through, even, starting to find a bit of success at streaming, is that a lot of it is talking to an empty room, basically, right? Like you're unless you have someone that you co-stream with, and I know some folks who do that seem like they have a great time, and then it's just hanging out with friends. You're just talking to an empty room, and but you have to be animated, you have to be engaged, all those kinds of things. So it can take a lot of energy to do that, and it's a lot of energy that you spend that doesn't necessarily return much to you. Like when chat's rolling and you're talking with chat and having fun in the game, that is just like, that makes you feel alive, right? But if you're talking and going, oh my god, I'm having such a great time, I'm playing RimWorld, what interesting storylines, ah shit, the Muffalos went nuts, like all these different things, blah blah blah, and it's just crickets, that, at least if you're me, and if you're pretty much, I think, most people, that doesn't feel great, right? So you have to be ready for those kinds of things. There's also the piece of this, which is like, if you're trying to move towards doing something more full time like this, you're going to be spending a lot, a lot of time streaming. And if it's not something that is renewing for you, refreshing for you, if it takes something out of you, then that's asking a lot, right? Because you'll presumably already be working or doing school or something like that, which takes up reasonably a ton of time. And then you're tagging this on top of that. Well, are you sleeping? Are you eating well? Are you exercising? Are you seeing friends and family and all of the things that help you? Or even just, heck, are you gaming off camera in the way that normally relaxes you or is fun for you? So there are definitely like sacrifices like that to think about. And this is true for streaming, and we're talking some of the specifics of streaming, like talking to an empty room, but it's also certainly true of pretty much any business that you're trying to build up. I work, I'm in my home office right now, and I often work from home, but I also pay to have access to a co-working space because I get to see and interact with other people. Like, and that's worth it. That has me much more like relaxed, much more engaging just in general. It has me in a better mood, which, as we were talking about earlier, being in a better mood just helps me do the rest of my business better. And it has it so, and I think I said this on the panel as well, has it so when my wife comes home, she's not the first person I've talked to face that day. So I'm not suddenly like bugging the hell out of her, being like, hi, how's it going? It's so good to see a person. And she's like, I just got home from work and I'm exhausted. um, and a big piece of it is knowing the kinds of challenges that people often run into with these kinds of situations, and then finding ways that work for you to deal with them. So for me, the co-working space is great. It might not be great for someone else. For me, if I'm in a really just shitty mood, doing something like going outside and reading for a bit, or watching something funny on YouTube, or just like playing Disney music or something like that, right, can help get me in a better mood. But all of those might do nothing for someone else, and that's totally legit. And they might have things that don't do anything for me, but that are like, I never play instruments, but I know for sure I have friends who their stress relief is playing that instrument, focusing on it, producing something, getting the positive feedback of, oh cool, I made this thing, right? So it's looking for those kinds of things. Joel, on your end, what do you see like sort of as the big ones for you rather? And I'm going to refill on coffee and be back.
Yeah, of course, and I think a lot of what you covered is pertinent both to, being a so Gail and I are both self-employed individuals, right? And that's the same for every content creator. And I think that's one of the when we speak to our experiences, that's kind of to help others get the similar types of insight when it comes to being a self-employed individual. So I don't have to necessarily deal with being on camera all the time or making sure I'm energetic or anything like that. Although that is something we're both trying to work on as part of this show. But self-confidence is just as important when it comes to dealing with clients, being on a phone call with clients for me, and being confident in my own abilities, both personally and professionally, as it would be for any content creator, being whether you're streaming as a game player, like if you're streaming as a competitive gamer, or if you're an esports professional, then you have to be confident in your abilities and to play. If you're streaming as a variety streamer, you have to be confident in your ability to entertain and to engage your chat, right? All of these things are, and I think this is almost one of the most important things, because whether you're starting out as a professional, as an attorney, as an accountant, as a financial planner, or any sort of self-employed, you have to have some sort of belief in yourself, that you, because you have to know that in the beginning things are going to be tough, to say the least. And
Yep.
I think that this is almost similar to kind of the business part where you say you have to expect that you're going to be spending more in expenses rather than in generating revenue when it comes to the
Yep.
financial side, right? So think of it that way. You're going to be expending more energy than receiving energy from chat in the very beginning, right? And I think that there's a mantra that goes around on Twitch that says, stream like no one's watching, right? And I think they even had a shirt where it said live and then next to it was 0 for the viewer, the viewer icon, right? And to me, like, I think that was, it's humorous, but I think it was also super poignant in that
Right.
you have to fake it until you make it, right? That's this Twitch version of faking it until you make it. Even if there's nobody in chat, even if we don't have the viewership that you're hoping for, you still have to pretend as if you were. You still have to be engaging, right? Because if you're waiting for somebody to show up in chat first and then you become entertaining, guess what? Why would anyone show up in the first place, right?
Right.
Because you have to present and promote your product. In this case, and it sounds a little bit crass, but you are the product, right? You have to present and promote yourself before anybody even wants to give it a glance and to explore what that product is about. Think of it as a commercial for yourself or an advertisement for yourself. And that's where the self-confidence comes in. And not only do you have to do it once, you have to do it over and over again, which is what we're talking about for that energy expenditure, right? So that's the be persistent part. So these two steps are kind of tied together, right? These two steps are tied together in that you have to always be practicing as if you are, well, not really even practicing, right? You always have to be performing. You always have to be performing as if you are streaming and then being persistent. And we heard this over and over again from the Hunter Wild and Stella Chu when we were on the panel. And again, the VOD is available for you guys to go look at. And they are able to articulate this much better than we are, which is why we're hoping to get them on again in the future so that they can help us to, provide more detail also, because we were limited to 1 hour on the panel, right?
Yep.
And if you're a content creator in chat right now, please feel free to share how you kind of practice these aspects also, so that we can kind of start a dialogue both on camera, and also in chat. But at the same time, the reverse of that is that energy expenditure is going to be very taxing, and it's going to take its toll on you in your daily life, as Galen was mentioning earlier, because if he's dealing with other people online only in the day, but then once his wife comes home and he finally has some in-person interaction, then it's almost that he overloads his wife, right? So
Yep. Speaking of which, I need to text her because she's about to start singing.
okay, so that my point is that those first two steps are one side of the coin that you have to adequately practice, right? Being self-confident and building your self-confidence and being persistent. The other side of that coin, and just as important to practice, is practicing balance and self-care, learning when to turn it off, right? Learn when that you can be off camera and kind of take care of yourself. If you need to take a mental health day, that's what kind of the theme this week on StreamerSquare. But if you have to know when it's better to be taking care of yourself rather than trying to perform on camera, because being a public persona, like some people are I've been extremely impressed by the way that they're able to, even if they're in a bad mood, to be good on camera, right? But that's not the same for everybody.
I can't do that.
I can't do that, right? So
I always look like I'm pissy even if I'm in a good mood, because I'm like squinting or like rubbing my chin, or like I think I sent you the message. I was looking at all the photos of me on the panel where I had a great time, and I look like a friggin' idiot. I'm like always making faces. I'm like, because I'm like, someone say something and I'm thinking, and I'm like,
yeah.
And then the picture is just me like
resting, thinking face. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like resting confused face or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
No. And that's perfectly relevant. All right. So the flip side of that is you have to practice that balance and that self-care and learn to deal with negative or unwanted attention. Right. So, and these are all kind of beginners or basic steps, if you will. But then, like we mentioned earlier, when it gets to the next stage, you're going to hope that you had practiced these adequately enough to deal with the elevated level that they are at when it comes to the silver stage.
Yeah.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about, let's see what other people Don't listen to
So
Tyler Bubble. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
say
So,
good night, good night, Marcy brought up the
yeah.
point, which we talked about a bit, which is not depending on chat for fuel, because
Yeah.
most people who watch are lurkers, and that's definitely true. Like, and that's one of the things that's hard for me whenever I have, which I haven't done in a bit, but whenever I have streamed myself playing a game, it is hard for me to talk into the void
Hmm.
and not get the feedback. But when chat is interacting with me, then it's great. But it's hard for me to be super good at that, which is part of why I like doing a show with someone else. So I'm not just talking at my computer. Um, so I thought that really made a lot of sense. And I don't know how you get good at it, because it's not something I've gotten good at yet. And whenever I've tried to record videos for my business, it's taken me more takes than I thought it should have, because of all of the like times where I just wasn't getting the feedback. So I don't know. I think that's a really important point.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of great tips being shared in chat also, like
Mm-hmm.
in addition to what Marcy said, also what Lev said, saying about kept energy up by reminding myself that what I am doing is helping others be successful. Sometimes you just have to,
Mm-hmm.
like, a part of faking it until you're making it is to remember what your motivation is, right? So why are you doing this? Whether you're doing this because you want to be internet famous, like I'm not judging your motivations or not, or you're doing this because you want to help develop relationships online. I've seen a
Yep.
lot of people stream because they wanted to, they didn't have necessarily people in their local geographic area that had similar interests, but they wanted to deal with internet
Oh yeah.
relationships, right? So internet friends are real friends anyway, right? So it's
Absolutely.
just dealing with people that you are developing relationships and you want to find other like-minded people. Are you doing this because you want to practice acting or voice acting? Are you doing this because you love gaming and you want to share your gaming or anything else like that? You want
Mm-hmm.
to showcase a certain game to the rest of the community. Remember those motivations, and exactly like you want to help others be successful. That helps you to get through those more taxing times also, and that helps with the self-confidence and being persistent, and it's also helping with your self-care at the same time. So that's a great point, Lev, that it works for both sides of the coin, in that um, all of this, if you haven't noticed already, all of this starts with yourself internally, though, right?
Oh yeah.
And this is, as a small business owner, it can be very rewarding to be a self-employed individual or a small business owner, but at the same time it's very dependent on
Every single person I have talked to in financial planning who doesn't make a whole bunch of money up front on commissions, which my practice is designed to be monthly fees, so not the huge commissions up front thing. Every single person I've talked to who has been successful at that says, I love my business. I love being self-employed. It took a ton of work.
Mhm.
I don't know that I could ever go back and do it again,
Yeah, exactly, right. It's
because it's so shitty in the moment.
Yeah, and we
But
took this part out of the slide because this is our checklist, so it's not going to cover all of the rationale behind it. But if you
mm-hmm.
go back to the slide, what you'll encounter during this first time is sacrifices. And that's the
Yep.
only thing we needed to put up there for the bronze stage, pretty much, because at the very beginning, it's just sacrifices. A lot
Yep.
of the stuff that you have to deal with, it's not necessarily like sacrificing, like you're spending your own money, you're spending your own dime trying to get your business off the ground, which that definitely will happen. But you're also spending your own time. You're sacrificing time, whether that's for another job, with friends, with other family, or anything like that. You're sacrificing social life, sacrificing sleep, or sometimes negatively sacrificing your health, right? So I've seen people go on marathon streams, which I would not recommend because it takes
Oof.
a toll
I don't know
eventually.
how
Yeah.
people do that.
Yeah. And I
I
mean,
don't
like,
know that I could.
I think it's almost it's bad that that's almost what's required of a lot of
Like for
content creators.
subathons and stuff
Yeah,
like
and
that.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. But at the same time, know when to take that know when to end your sacrifice, or know when your sacrifice is enough, right? So that's kind of why we're discussing these things right now. Is just to you have to practice that self-care and the balance, and that's only going to become more important later on.
I
Yeah.
like that we have a checklist box like learn to deal with negative / unwanted attention. All right, done. Like, yeah, got that covered. Like,
Well, I mean,
it's
like,
so simple.
and this is probably one of the steps that where Galen and I probably aren't able to help that much because as you mentioned earlier, we're not usually the recipients of this. But
Isn't
like,
that what is it like? Draw the rest of the fucking owl or
yeah,
whatever that thing is. Uh,
I,
have you seen that?
I don't think I know.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's like some guide for how to draw. I think it's an owl. And it's just and it's like, oh, first you draw, like, you do this little thing, and then you do this little thing, and then you draw the rest of the fucking owl, and it just has the guy do it really quickly. You're like, that's no help.
yeah.
And that's like what this is. Learn to deal with the negative unwanted attention. Just do it. Just go.
Is it one of those
Um,
like step one, plug this in, step two, the whole thing, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. Step
yeah,
one, buy the parts for your PC. Step two, build it.
yeah.
Like, duh. Step three, and it's like, wait. That's what I care. That's what I need the help with. That's what I cared about.
And like for some people, I will say for some people, a lot of this stuff comes. We have different things that come second nature to us, right? So for some
Mm-hmm.
people, technology stuff very second nature. I'm not one of those guys, right? It took me a long time to build my first PC, right? And it felt like a major accomplishment, and I'm actually still surprised that it was up and running when I finally did it, right?
I was proud
But
of myself for replacing my graphics card with the new one. I was like,
yeah,
got it. I
or
watched
even
hours of YouTube videos, but
setting up OBS for the first time, that
oh
was like,
god,
oh man, I feel really good.
thank
Right?
goodness for StreamerSquare and their guides.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's go to the second portion. I'm hoping that this does show up when I switch. Yep, here we go. So the second portion of Silver Stage, and you'll see now that what we talk about, everything based off of each other, or based off isn't the word, building off of each other. Yep. So this is what you're going to encounter, and what steps do you need to take when it comes to personal and finance side on Silver Stage. Galen, why don't you remind chat what Silver Stage is?
Yep. So bronze stage, we basically classify as your as like we said earlier, 99.9% of people, you're earning some income potentially from it, or just or just starting to do it, but you're earning less than a you're earning less than a part-time job at minimum wage, which is actually still, I mean, we looked it up last time. Minimum wage was what, seven something an hour, and so it would be like,
725, I think.
yeah,
It
yeah.
depends.
California, it's a lot
Here's the
higher.
legal part. Again, it depends, right? So the
Yeah, it
legal part
depends.
is because there are many different regulations. Federal minimum wage, I think, is like 725, but
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
lot of different counties and cities that set their own minimum wage that
yeah.
supersede the federal one.
Point being, you're
Yeah.
talking north of 5K, but less than 10K, which is where the majority of content creators fall. Even some partners, even plenty of partners actually. So for Silver Stage, what we classify it is as you're above that level, but you're only earning enough to cover about half of your basic living expenses. And when we talk basic living expenses, we actually mean like all of the things that you would need to buy if you are, or buy or pay for or whatever, if you were doing this as your full-time job. So it's not just rent and food and electricity, general utilities, and the kinds of things that you picture, but it's also, oh shit, I'm self-employed now, I need health insurance now, I need, you're right, like there are all sorts of things like employee benefits that you no longer get that we're covering in that. So it's a pretty big range, but it's also very personal. And I'm going to reiterate this every time we talk about this. It's very personal because basic living expenses are extremely different if you're in California versus in Wisconsin. Basic living expenses are very different if you're single and young or married with kids, right? Like that. So that's why when we're putting these things in here, we are functionally saying it depends, um, because it really is you that is driving this basic living expenses piece.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends. Yeah. So, but
I'd buy the shirt.
yeah, we got to get those made, right? So, um, that's why we didn't put guidelines, as Galen said. That's why we didn't put like strict guidelines. You're making at least 10 grand a month for some like
Ooh,
unrealistic number,
I'd
or
love to
even
make 10
irrelevant
grand a
number.
month.
Yeah, irrelevant number, right? But it's just this is that's why we used qualitative guidelines rather than quantitative guidelines. And the important thing being that it's net revenue. But for the silver stage, that you'll see that the factors are largely pretty similar, but they're basically the beefed up versions of what you had to do at the bronze stage. So, just to reiterate, what you'll encounter: increased stress, less passion and enthusiasm. Like these are potential things that you will encounter, right? So
Right.
we've got these from content creators that we were talking with in preparing this panel, and possible burnout, right? So these are because we talked about that energy expenditure that you had to go put in from bronze stage to silver stage, right? So it takes a lot of effort to get from bronze stage to silver stage. Some people are
Well, just
talented.
remember the number we said.
Yeah.
99.9% of people are in the bronze stage. So that should tell you right there how much it takes to get even to silver.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's always going to be exceptions to analyze, right? Like, Dr. Disrespect hasn't been streaming as long as, like, he's relatively, when it comes to streaming, he's a relatively new streamer, but obviously he has huge growth and huge following, right? But that's not always going to be the case. And in fact, that will rarely be the case, right?
Right.
Streaming is definitely more so a marathon than a sprint, and especially the path of content, full-time online content creation, right? So it's definitely a more drawn-out process that requires a lot of hard work, which is why you will see this less passion and enthusiasm and possible burnout, right? If you're trying to be on camera, on performance all the time, then it's not surprising that after doing it for an extended period of time, then you're going to be less enthused about streaming, right?
Yep.
And we've seen this happen a lot too. I would say you're going to see more people dealing with burnout that you're going to see overnight success stories like Dr. Disrespect.
Yep.
Right. Or we can use anybody else as an example too, any other rapid success story, right? So, and the point is that if you weren't adequately practicing self-care and balance before, you're going to hit this point sooner. You're going to hit the burnout point sooner and the less passion and enthusiasm point sooner than you would if you had practiced balance and self-care, right? And it's an ongoing thing also. I know one of our fellow panelists was Hunter Wild, right? And he's a good friend of mine, a dear friend of mine. We used to work together on a streaming team called The Party. And I've seen this happen firsthand to a lot of streamers that we had on the team, which is basically he was going full bore ahead, just doing marathons after marathons, and he still does, right? And he's able to do it because he knows his community enjoys it. He practices good habits that allow him to do it. One of the good habits was he actually took a week off to go on Viewboat, I think like 2 weeks ago or something like that, which is the first vacation he's taken in. I think
it was only a week ago, believe it or not.
It was only a week ago, and
right?
there's some.
I'm not crazy. Yeah, no, it was only a week ago because it was right after. It was right after my birthday.
You're right. It was the 8th, the 7th, the 6th to the 8th, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it was some like ridiculous number where like this was his first vacation after streaming nearly 7,000 hours of content or something like that.
Yeah, he's right around 7,000.
Right. So this was, and like, he is the one who kind of was such a champion of practicing balance to prevent yourself from getting burned out, because he knows that can happen very easily, especially when you're being diligent and you're being persistent.
And just for context, 2,000 hours in a year is considered full-time, roughly. Like that's 2,000 hours in a year is about 40 hours a week. So, which is, the standard 9 to 5 full-time job where you get 2 weeks of vacation. So keep that in mind, right? 7,000 hours is 3.5 years worth of normal work, if you're going to call it the 9 to 5 normal work, which, is a bit, maybe that's an outdated concept or something like that with how we actually have like an information economy and stuff like that now, but still, that's the content, that's the context piece. It's like, oh wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. And so like the steps to take, right? So we're going back to this part now. So that's what you will encounter. So kind of the steps to take are to maintain that balance. And that's something that you should have been like, so if you weren't practicing adequate balance before, it's going to be pretty hard to maintain balance, right? So it's the kind of stuff that you'll need to do. If you're at this stage now, but you haven't been able to do this, this is something you're going to have to go back and first practice the balance before you can maintain it. Part of helping to have maintaining balance is to make sure you have a good support network, right? And Lev had mentioned something earlier in chat about being there are other people who can help you out, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help, and that's part of it being a support network. Whether it's helping build the PC, whether it's having good moderators, whether it's having someone help you edit videos, whether it's anybody else like a social media guy or anything else, right? Or even just outside of that stuff, because that's all professional support. But what about personal support?
I love this like streamer meetups that I see.
Yeah.
View boat, but also just like the local ones and things like that. Those seem like an absolute blast. I haven't found one. Oddly enough, in Los Angeles, I haven't found one. But
I think that's because people in LA probably rather go explore some of the other things available.
Maybe.
Right.
Yeah,
but
there's enough entertainment stuff here. But,
yeah. So, but it's both from a professional support side, a personal support side, having a supportive partner or significant other, having supportive family members or friends who can help you with this stuff. I'm not a streamer. I'm not a content creator. Well, I do create content in the fact that we make this show, we write articles and that kind of stuff. You are actively
creating
right?
content.
We're actively creating content, but I'm not a full-time streamer or anything like that. But at the same time, I'm very thankful for people like Tyler Bobo in chat who helped me make sure that he helps me moderate my channel when we're doing the stream. He helps me with doing some editing also for video stuff, and he also helps me make sure I have helping me moderate my Discord and everything else like that, right? So it's great to see, and even as somebody who isn't a full-time content creator, just to have that help is invaluable. So imagine if you are a full-time content creator, how much more you would need something like that, right? Going back to Hunter, because he's on the panel and because I know he wouldn't mind us using him as an example, he has a excellent manager in HB Fox, right? And he was
HB's great.
One of the main reasons that we decided to ask Hunter to be on this panel with us is because we knew he had a lot of these planning steps down pat before he even started making those kind of making that big push into silver stage and into gold stage, where he's in gold stage now. So and he's just having to making sure that he has that support network and helpers out there who are able to offload some of those tasks that Lev put it, right? So, and we mentioned this earlier in chat, the same reason that you wouldn't want to become an accountant just to file your own taxes. If you're a streamer, it doesn't make sense for you to study accounting just to file your own taxes. Instead, just go out and hire an accountant, right? So don't
costs a lot less.
Yeah, don't work on your weaknesses to the point where they just become very strong weaknesses. Rather, you should just outsource your weaknesses. It saves you time, it saves a headache, and then this works just as well for the personal and mental aspects. Right?
Yep, absolutely. I am consistently pleasantly surprised by how refreshing it is for me to go to the monthly study groups that I have through the local financial planning association, because it's a group of professionals who are doing a similar thing to what I'm doing, who, when we're sitting there talking about the inanities of a tax bill, for instance, or potentially complaining about clients who don't listen, it's really refreshing. And if I were to just sit there and do that at my wife all of the time, she would be really annoyed with me. And reasonably, right? Reasonably.
Yeah.
I don't really enjoy hearing about the intricacies of email marketing, which is what she does either. Well, at least not, she's my wife. I love talking with her, listening to her, that kind of thing. But there's a point where you're like, can we change just a different subject, please? So it's really nice to have that network, and that is going to be no different for streamers.
Mm-hmm. There's a reason that there are, associations for doctors, associations for attorneys, for financial professionals, and everything like that. Think of the meetups as associations for content creators, right? So I would highly encourage you to get involved with those. And it doesn't even have to be a meetup. It could be like an online social circle full of friends, right? So maybe you have a private Discord or something like that, or a private group DM where you can kind of just vent or ask for help from other people. Actually, this is a good time to plug the StreamerSquare Discord. Do we have links to the StreamerSquare Discord? Does anyone have any of the chat members or moderators? I wonder if I can just share one of the invites.
Probably. Let me see. I can pull it up. I mean, easily enough, but.
Okay, hopefully this works. Yeah, sorry, we're not on my channel. There we go. Hopefully that'll work.
Well, let's see. Is there a Discord command?
SS Discord. Thank you, Jabberwockies. Yeah.
I say Jabber. Okay, Jabber's got it. There you go. We're covered. I assumed there was, given that they also do the stream scene on here, but I did not know for certain.
Okay, there you go. Thank you so much. So that is a very good resource you can use as a content creator. Join that one and talk with your fellow streamers to deal.
I wonder if you can do unique URLs for Discord like you can for your site to track where they came from. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
so I know there's a link to the Discord up on StreamerSquare, like the website. Anyways,
probably you might have to use it. Yeah, you might have to use like a bit.ly or a tiny URL kind of thing to do tracking. Or I mean, if you're a Discord partner, then you also have unique URLs too.
I say I don't know the back end of that kind of stuff, but
yeah. So I know Bitly helps with that, like Shadow Fox said. But anyway, join that Discord so you can kind of discuss with other streamers. They have a lot of helpful channels in there, including stuff for technical talk, right? Coding, console streaming, art and graphics, off topic, finance, right? I'm sure Galen was in the finance stuff a lot. We also have a, here's my side, turn to plug. Under the shows, we have a text channel just for your brand, your business. Feel free to go there and ask us questions there, or look for different advice, or even if you just want to, you can suggest a future talk show topic or anything like that. Just feel free to use that channel, and then we will monitor that and kind of pay attention to that too.
Can't guarantee that we can actually give advice.
Yeah,
but it could be a subject to talk about.
Yeah, so generally speaking, and this is kind of like another tangent, but it's a disclaimer tangent, right? Generally speaking, we cannot give you advice on a specific case-by-case basis, right? Because that's something that would require an actual, professional engagement to do, right? But we can give you general advice. My article
coming out tomorrow is about that, sort of.
Yeah.
My article coming out tomorrow is about how to ask effective panel questions, and one of the things is follow the rules. And it's because that the panel set up for questions, and it's because there's usually a reason for those rules, not just because we felt like it.
I mean,
because I felt bad on our panel when we couldn't answer people's questions because they were saying like all these specific things. We're like,
and first off, that panel and the questions are being live streamed to hundreds of people on the internet, and it's available for video on demand for how many thousands of people on the internet for forever, right? So that's probably not the place where you want to be sharing your confidential information. So at the same time, it's there are boundaries in place for the benefit of you, right? But that's a channel you can go there and ask us. We will be if we do think that you're getting to a point where it would be better for you to talk to us privately, we'll be happy to tell you that, right? And we'll be happy to talk to you privately also. All right. The last step here was to diversify yourself, and this is the introduction of a. There's many aspects to this diversify yourself, right? But this is the introduction of a new aspect of your personal and mental stuff that you have to take care of. This goes somewhat similar to what we talked about in the business side in Silver, which is developing outside revenue streams. Diversify yourself means to, one, figure out a way to set yourself apart from others, right? Because being unique and being something different from the crowd is what's going to help you get attention as a content creator in the first place. Second, not just being unique, but you also have to figure out what are some other potential avenues for you to develop your livelihood, right? Develop your career, not just having other revenue streams, whether that's merchandise or get services. I think Lev had mentioned earlier about potentially having not just a community, but it's also a business, and you can think of what other ways that you can progress or evolve your business. But diversifying yourself also helps to avoid that burnout, right? Rather than just working on one project all the time, such as your Twitch channel or something. If all of a sudden then you have other channels that you're working on or other avenues or platforms that you're working on. A lot of them go hand in hand, right? Being an influencer can involve Instagram posts. It can involve Twitter posts or Facebook posts or whatever. Video on demand on YouTube or any other platform, or uploading different kinds of streams and different kinds of videos directly to your Twitch channel. There's a lot of things that are involved with diversifying yourself. And one of the advantages of diversifying yourself is that when you introduce these new aspects to your profession, that comes with it new enthusiasm for those parts to help you avoid the burnout.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's like if you're playing the same game for a long time, all of a sudden sometimes you want to mix it up. You want to play different games sometimes to kind of help, prevent boredom or monotony.
Yeah.
Yep.
What are you playing right now? Tangent, but
some Destiny 2, some I've been checking out a little bit of the new Arc DLC.
oh, nice. I haven't played Ark at all. It looks fun, but I haven't played it much at
It's
all.
always a game that like I'll play it a lot for a little bit for a period of time, and then it gets a little bit tedious, and then I'll go do something else. And
Gotcha.
Yeah. But like sometimes you just have that like building itch that you want to scratch, or like taming dinosaurs. I mean, like who doesn't love dinosaurs, right?
Right? Like that's always where I'm looking at it like, that sounds like a fun thing to do.
What about you?
The whole past week has been consumed by the new PvE mode in Hearthstone, the dungeon runs or whatever they're called. It is so much fun. So frustrating too, but also so much fun.
What is that in PvE in Hearthstone?
So basically the way that it works, how familiar are you with Hearthstone? How much have you played?
I played a bit.
Okay.
I haven't played like the last 2-3 expansions, but
So this would be perfect then, because what it is it's bosses like the old
like unlocking different card sets and stuff like that.
well, yeah, there used to be the actual like you'd go through Noxramas or you'd go through right, and what they did in this is there's bosses that are slightly randomized, but you pick a class, you fight the bosses, and each time you beat a boss, you get to select semi-randomly generated sets of cards to add to your deck, as well as potential like sort of overpowered artifact-y kind of effects. So it costs you nothing to do. It's against the computer, which is overpowered in its own way, but then you get to like do deck building decisions at every step, and it's up to 8 bosses, and the last boss is always super hard and stuff like that.
It's almost like
really
arena
fun.
then. Yeah, a little bit like
yeah, except that it's each time you play against a boss, you then get more cards.
Yeah,
right.
That's pretty cool.
You keep your original deck, but then you add to it. So you have to like constantly be making decisions about what would fit best in your deck, and sometimes you just get terrible options, and so you have to like make the best of it. Sometimes you have to. Anyways, it's a lot of fun, and I feel kind of. I finally beat all 9 of the classes, which took a while, but I feel kind of bad because I had been playing Divinity Original Sin, the first one, which was fun, but then this came out and I like completely lost the thread of that, and now I have to go back and figure out what I'm doing. That game is hard, by the way, Divinity Original Sin.
Yeah, I've heard it's pretty hard.
Cow.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yep. No, that's okay. This is Twitch, right? And still.
Yeah. That's how I diversify myself.
Yeah. Sometimes that's how you practice self-care and balance as a financial planner. Sometimes you have to just get away from all the finance stuff and play a game. Right.
Yep.
Same for attorneys.
Yep. Absolutely. Which is why I got into Twitch in the first place.
Yeah.
Because I was already doing that. I am getting a Switch for Christmas, and I'm so excited.
Nice. Very nice. I've been playing a lot more mobile games because it's easier to hold a hand or hold a phone with one hand rather than like having a controller or something else like that. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So, okay. And the last stage that we have then is the gold stage, right? So the gold stage is where we why don't you talk about the gold stage? Who belongs in the gold stage?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the gold stage is you're making enough to cover all of your basic expenses, meaning that you're at a point where you could reasonably make the transition to full-time streaming. And again, when we're talking about making enough, it's net revenue. So what you've gotten after, deducting out your business expenses, after paying taxes. And it's to cover all of those expenses, both the normal ones that you think about, for anyone. And then the new ones that you would get from being self-employed, like having to figure out health insurance, like looking at disability insurance, those kinds of things. It's not just insurance, but like things that you might often get through an employer that you now don't.
Mm-hmm.
And there are very few people who I think are actually fully doing this. I think there are some folks who go full time or try to go full time who are skimping.
Yeah.
Who didn't get health insurance, and oh look, the exchange closed this past Friday, and those kinds of things where like that's an actual expense that you need to be covering, but a lot of people aren't.
And I mean, like that is that's probably not something Galen and I would ever do, but that is ultimately that's up to them, right? And we had mentioned this earlier. Also, it's about what you're comfortable with when it comes to your actual expenses. While we would argue that health insurance probably isn't something to give up, it's probably not a something you should gamble with, right? But then, the same way that it depends from region to region on your living, it's also what you're comfortable giving up, I guess. Yeah.
I think people don't understand the magnitude of the risk.
Yes. Yeah. So the most important thing that we would say is that you have to be, and that's very good. That's a great point. You have to be fully informed before you decide to make those decisions. And this goes back to the sacrifices you make at the bronze stage, right? So is it really going to be, if you have a steady 40-hour job that gives you great benefits and great pay, are you fully informed in making a decision before when you decide to quit that job to pursue full-time streaming, right? So,
and on the mental emotional side of the sudden loss of stability, you had that base, that platform that you knew was going to be steady, and now you don't.
Yes. Right. So and like that's actually really, it's a good point to talk about in the personal mental. So this is the more risk, more responsibility portion, right? And this is
and potentially also more reward, but
more reward, right?
They're all looped together.
Yeah. So like, it's funny how it's the same as investing, right? If you're comfortable with more, hey, speaking of investing, well, not really completely, but Warbnell in chat, we're joined by a CPA who can tell you all about more risk, more reward, right? But it's kind of, you definitely have the ability once you're at this stage to do something that you love on a full-time basis, right? So there's something to be said about pursuing your passion, if this is your passion, rather than pursuing a paycheck, right? So that's a separate argument all on its own that is also worth its own discussion. But at the same time, and because this is a kind of mental health week on StreamerSquare, you have to understand that sometimes when it comes to pursuing your own passion, you will be taking on a lot of additional stress to the point where that passion no longer becomes a passion, right? And so the risk and danger of burnout is so much more exaggerated at this stage than it is on any other stage, because especially once it's one thing to be able to say, I'm streaming because it's a hobby, I'm streaming because it's just some side revenue, right? I still have another job I can fall back on that if things don't go well here. It's another thing to say, I'm streaming because I need to stream to pay my bills.
Yep.
Right. So that is it's almost like it may not seem like a big difference between silver stage and gold stage, but conceptually and mentally, that is an entirely different world. Once you get to the point of this is your only safety net, right? That's why when we say things that it's the burnout portions are that much greater, it's important to do things like take a vacation, figure out insurance. Insurance also provides another avenue of safety net. So if you have I haven't heard of anybody getting disability insurance for content creation, which I don't know if it's possible.
It would be harder than normal, but I think still possible.
Somebody might write it out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's a growing industry, and it's no different than, well, not no different, but it's a la acting and stuff like that.
Yeah, which like people might insure their face, right? Their look if they have a very iconic
athletes
look.
Insure their, like, quarterbacks insure their right arm, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But I think you have to get to a very pretty
Insure
high
your
tier
face.
when it gets to that point. Well, it's not unheard of. I don't think.
No, I know.
Yeah,
It just
it's pretty
sounds like,
funny, but yeah, I think
why don't you insure your face?
sounds like a recess like insult or something like
Exactly.
that. Yeah, but I think so. Insurance definitely is for a health thing, right? So it's a little bit unfortunate that we're doing this after the health insurance
Yeah.
enrollment thing
Yeah.
has already. But I know both of us have been, especially you have been
trying to
taking
harp
steps
on
to
that.
kind of to promote that. But
Mhm.
health insurance does help, and the magnitude that Galen was talking about earlier. Health insurance does help because when you don't have an employer that can give you pay time off or sick days, right? You need health insurance to kind of help you alleviate some of those costs, right? Because you don't have any. Your sick days directly impact your revenue in that. If you take a day off for streaming because you're sick, great, do that because you need to take care of yourself. But realize that means you won't have any tips or any other subscribers or anything else from that day, right?
Yep.
So health insurance helps mitigate some of those costs, which in this is definitely a financial step, but it also helps very much so with your mental and personal
You're paying
peace of mind.
a monthly known amount to avoid the hazard of a sudden unknown amount. Is basically what it is. You're paying for, as you were saying, peace of mind, security, all those kinds of things. You're giving yourself control, and you may never use it. And guess what? That means you won. If you don't use your health insurance because you never got sick, that means you won.
It's definitely. This is getting into a little bit controversial territory, but it's definitely a very. It can seem like a real bummer to be paying potentially hundreds of dollars a month for insurance that you don't ever use, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really, health insurance for most people, and especially for most self-employed people, is to prevent from catastrophic expenses or catastrophic injury, right? Because it's almost like a all or nothing proposition, where either you're paying that premium and you eat the premium cost every month without actually having a whole lot of benefit, or you're paying that premium and then it doesn't have to be like a tragedy. It could be like, in my instance, my wife and I had a kid this year, right? We definitely hit our deductible from that, right? So and like all of the so we, even though our insurance wasn't the best, it was through the marketplace and everything like that, but because we're self-employed, but we are thankful that it was there, and we still had to pay a astronomical deductible, but we're thankful for all of the costs that it paid for after that deductible. Right. And even then,
kids are expensive.
Yeah. Even then, there are a lot of times insurance, and this, I'm not going to pass a judgment, although I probably should, on the healthcare industry in this country, but insurance does help. They say they negotiate down the rates for the service provided anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
collective, not collective bargaining, but increased purchasing, concentration of purchasing power, meaning you have a stronger negotiating position.
Yeah, really, I mean, like, some people might say that it's just those were inflated rates because they could get that from insurance. Because like if you talk about the cash discount, which a lot of times if you're talking about the cash discount from a service provider, if you're paying out of pocket, it's like 40 to 50% anyway. So
Yep. That's, I mean, my when I got my wisdom teeth out earlier this year, the fact that I prepaid for it got me like a 25% discount.
Yeah.
And then because we have an HSA, I got a functionally another 25% discount because I paid with it with tax-free money. It was like, all right. I mean, and that's 25 off of 25. So it was, you know.
I mean, and probably a worthwhile tangent. Part of that getting insurance is also getting a health savings account. We should actually just add that, right? Or other. What would you even call an HSA? There aren't too many things that are like that, but you could also throw in like traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs under this. It's just like
you'd have to find
financial.
You'd have to make sure that your plan actually qualified you for it.
Yeah, that's the main thing that I wanted to talk like, because I had my deductible would have qualified for me for it under what the HSA guidelines are for deductibles, but because it wasn't an HDHP, then it didn't qualify.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. High deductible health plan.
yeah, and that's just
Um,
it has to be stamped in HDHP. Yeah, which is stupid, but that's something else. Yeah, other get insurance, other financial planning instruments, right?
yeah.
So we're just talking about like this is what health and
And we have
savings
this under
accounts.
personal mental. I mean, I think it's worth saying, adding in there explicitly for the peace of mind component. Like, not
For peace of mind.
yeah. And at least for us, because we have insurance through my wife's work and with how they do their benefits, all the money that we took out for my dental surgery was basically money that the company had put in anyway, so that was great too.
Yeah. And that's a very good point that we didn't really cover this episode, although we covered it in previous episodes. If you have a partner or someone who can support you who has great benefits, that obviously changes a lot of the stuff, right? And so like it's also that goes a long way to having peace of mind, but at the same time, then your balance also becomes making sure you're spending time with your family, right? For a lot of streamers who, if they're single, then that's okay. They can sacrifice more time than somebody who was in a position that was married or is a position where they have kids, right? So that those things can drastically change the steps that you need to take in this situation.
Yep.
But this is a peace of mind portion, a safety net portion for the steps to take, right?
Agreed.
Again, beware of burnout, right? Because the risks are exaggerated here.
Yeah.
Take vacations, right? Vacations help to prevent that burnout. Just taking time off. It doesn't have to be a fancy cruise like Viewboat or anything else. Although I would, recommend anybody who's interested to go find out more about it because they are doing one in this upcoming year. But at the same time, you can just do a staycation, right? As much as I hate using that word on the internet, right? But you can do something like just like a short weekend trip or even a short day trip or taking a time off, right?
Yeah.
I think one thing that I think Twitch is doing correctly to kind of help battle some of that burnout is introducing stuff like, and I know the vodcasts get a lot of hate from other people for a variety of reasons, some of them very legitimate reasons, but
when they fixed the directory thing, I think it got a lot better.
Yeah, but then like vodcast is a great tool you can use to help. It's a CRM tool really that you can use to as a content creator on Twitch to help you with the vacation portion, right? I'm not saying that you're going to earn certain subs just because you have a vodcast going on, but at the same time, it helps, people, if they miss the stream, they can do that live with other community members. So, and plan for your personal future. We didn't actually, I know at this point of the panel, we were kind of running out of time, which is why I definitely want to get other streamers on, including, if Loco is able to join this, that would be wonderful also, to talk about how she does a lot of this stuff, because she is actually an incredibly intelligent person who's done a lot of planning on her own also, and will be able to offer some great insight into these steps, really any of these steps, right? But how you plan for your personal future. What is your life going to look like after streaming, right? Because
or not even after streaming, but with streaming over the long term, because usually the thing that pushes you to this level of success might not be like a long-term sustainable thing. You see people like Ko who have a young family and have found a way to seemingly keep it sustainable, and he had his recent challenge, right, that he finally ended about and went on a much more seemingly
streaming every day,
reasonable long-term sustainable schedule. So I think that's that future planning piece of like, you may make short-term sacrifices, but in the long, you have to plan for the long term that hopefully those won't be permanent.
Yeah.
Even if, and it could be after streaming. I know some folks are moving into, what do they call, like influencer relationship manager, community manager roles for companies and that kind of thing. But figuring out, maybe it's a stepping stone to what you want, and it's always going to bring in some side income, but it's not what you want to do full time because you find out you don't like the life. But you need to figure out and plan for those contingencies, because you don't want to suddenly realize that you're burned out and hate it and have no out.
Yeah.
As we were
And,
talking about earlier.
and I think like it's kind of important to point out here that it's Galen and I don't have all the answers, right? And I'm readily
Oh, no.
able to admit that, right? And I am comfortable admitting that live on the internet. You can quote me. I don't have all the answers, right? So it's just like the shirt that we have. We need an independence shirt, and then sorry, I don't practice, blah blah blah, right? And then
Yeah.
Warbed's Ernest just put another one. Your own unique individual facts and circumstances will always determine the appropriate action that should be taken, right? So everything is always like, generally speaking, they're all another version of stating it depends, right?
Yep.
So my point is that while we don't have all of the answers and these steps will all depend on your own circumstance, the important thing isn't so much that, well, it is that you actually fulfill these steps, but some of it is also that you just be aware of what steps are required, right? It's a checklist. The checklist isn't there. It's great that we have these boxes so you can actually check something off when you actually completed it. But if you don't check it off, at the same time, be aware that it's an open box that you haven't checked off. It's a to-do thing, right? So you have to be aware that you need to practice this. So while I can't tell you what your personal future will be with or without streaming, at least the operative word here in this one isn't the future portion. It's the plan portion, right? Make sure that you have all of these things, or at least are aware of these steps that need to be taken, and are taking actions or doing something to kind of start approaching and fulfilling those steps, right? Planning for your future can involve a wide variety of things, as Galen discussed, both business and financial side, legal side, personal and mental side, right? But then it's better to have something in place than just to go, oh, I'm not really sure what's going to happen, so I'm just going to wing it, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you can wing things. I have winged. What would the past tense be of that? Winged? Winged? Yeah, I have winged things in the past. Yeah, I was like, that doesn't sound right the moment it was coming out of my mouth, right? So I have winged things before. Personal future should not be one of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Completely agreed.
But I think, and this actually is just a segue into our next topic that we're going to be discussing, because this is the last step that we had discussed, is going to be talking about the future of your brand, your business, and this show. But before we get into that next segue and we start wrapping things up, does anyone in chat have any questions or comments that you want to discuss? We can spend a few minutes kind of discussing those questions in chat first before we kind of, because this is with the holidays coming up, and it's crazy that it's 1 week from Christmas Eve and 2 weeks from New Year's Eve. This is going to be the last episode of Your Brand, Your Business for 2017. Yeah, that's not to say it's the last episode, period. We have a lot of great things planned actually for 2018, which we will discuss in a little bit, but let's kind of discuss some questions and comments first.
Yeah. It's, as we were saying at the start of this, a week from today is Christmas Eve, so I'm going to be in Arizona and not in front of a streaming setup. And then the week after that is New Year's Eve, and presumably, again, I will be in, somewhere with family doing something that doesn't put me in a place where I could reasonably be on camera or even necessarily be on audio.
Yeah, and that's all part of having that balance, right? It's during the holiday season. I would expect that. I think I would expect most people to want to spend time with their loved ones, and I would highly encourage that. I mean, your loved ones could very much be the ones on your internet friends and stuff like that, and there's nothing wrong with that.
True.
Spend time with them. Don't spend time listening to these two idiots. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100%. It's looking like we don't have specific questions popping up. So,
okay.
What were we going to talk about next? The
future of the show. Yeah.
Of the show.
So first of all, thank you for those of you who have been here since before we even had a title for the show, right? So this all started from Galen and I developing a working relationship together. Part of it was making this panel, right? It was our TwitchCon, which was kind of our
as I said, I think I like reached out to you because I saw some taxing you'd put out on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like in April?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that I remember at that time I was kind of I was doing a survey for people who were interested in tax filing services, right? And now it's been crazy that it's only been since April, and I've already had, like, there's been so many changes and so many other professionals that I've met, which is very exciting also because it helps. But that was the kind of the start of all of this. This was and we wanted to submit a panel for TwitchCon, which we thankfully got accepted, and thankfully were, I believe,
February
successful.
11th.
Yeah,
There you go.
successful in doing it. So, and that is kind of how we began this, right? So the first I would say the proof of concept came when we were streaming, putting together this checklist, or no, putting together these slides, putting together the panel, right? So putting together the panel, and we had a show then, and then we also then obviously had the panel, which we're hoping to. This is all part of building off of that panel, helping to promote more educational resources in conjunction with that panel, and also future demands, which is after that we started doing this checklist stuff, and we didn't even have a title, and then it started off on my own channel, which I will go ahead and promote my channel now. So if you do have time, please go ahead and give me a follow at my channel, which is, well, I'm just gonna type it out, even though you can just click on my name and follow. We do have another show on that channel right now called Nerds at Law, in which that I have, I have one. Really? Hey, cool.
Yeah, I made these after the show last week.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So, that's me. I'm Joel, right? So go ahead and please give me a follow both on Twitter and Twitch. And we do have another show that that we promote, or that I do, called Nerds at Law, which is with another attorney. Which there will be some changes there, but definitely Loco was gracious enough to have us do this show, Your Brand, Your Business, on StreamerSquare, which is where you're watching it right now. Going forward, this show started out on my personal channel, but going forward, we're going to continue doing it on this show, but with even more production value. So this is the big hurrah moment. This is the big hype moment, right? So we are going to, better overlays than just what we're using right now. We're going to try to capitalize on these shows by having VODs available. There are VODs available already actually on YouTube, but having like better VODs made more readily available mods on a variety of platforms, and also stuff like the checklist to go out in conjunction, right? Stuff to for you to not just kind of learn, but also to use in your everyday business and to practice your business hygiene, as Galen so eloquently puts it. And I think that is, we're still trying to hammer out a good time to do this, although we started doing it on Friday afternoons, but I think we might be shifting to the weekend, so similar to around this time, although that is still up in the air and that's still a TBD. But we are going to be doing this more regularly, and with what we hope to be more actively scheduled topics. So please do, again, the Discord, please do, is this, I believe, right? Please go ahead and join that Discord. Go find the Your Brand, Your Business channel, and go and suggest some topics to us, which we'll be happy to take under consideration for future shows, so that we can discuss this on what we hope to be a weekly basis, and even bring in other guests to kind of discuss how they've been dealing with their brand as a business, hence the name, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, any feedback you have for this show, these episodes that we've been doing, the checklist, thank you for the feedback that you guys have been doing in chat so far. Please go ahead and provide us on Discord, so it doesn't have to be like and just this. Go ahead and follow us on social media, because we'll also be promoting a lot of our own articles, our own stuff that we wrote, or just other things that we think are important. For example, the healthcare enrollment deadline, and just
tax bill potentially.
Tax bills, and just also like just for updates on when we're going to be doing the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right. Anything? Let's just. All right. We'll do the cheesy sign off thing for our end of the year show. 2 questions, and if you're in chat, please answer these also. First one: what are you hoping to get for Christmas slash Hanukkah slash any other gift giving holiday that you celebrate? 2, what is a New Year's resolution that you will have? We'll start with Galen, then we can kind of go for some catching the industry. I'm sorry, Robin. There is going to be a video on demand that you can watch. Please go ahead and do. At least you're here to answer some questions. So these are the first question. What are you hoping to receive as a gift this holiday season? And 2, what is one of your New Year's resolution?
Let's see.
Given that this is our last Your Brand, Your Business for 2017, again, thank you so much for supporting us the way you have this year. I know this has kind of been a proof of concept, kind of like a soft open for us, a beta of the show, if you will, based off of the panel. And think of the panel as our pilot episode, and then this is kind of our soft open, and then going into 2018 we have a lot of exciting things planned.
Yeah, let's see. The New Year's resolution is the harder one, for me at least. I think one major resolution that I want to undertake is do like 5 to 10 minutes of cleaning a day.
That's good.
And that one is, like, in theory should be easy. If I start doing something like that, I usually end up doing more cleaning, which is just good. And it's something that, like, I know is stressful for my wife if the place is dirty at a level below what hits my radar, right? Like, if you want to talk like baseline tolerance levels, mine is a lot higher than hers, and so I think that would be a good one. And then for Christmas, I already mentioned it. Since my birthday was just recently, and that's how I can conveniently ask for combined gifts. Nice. I asked basically my entire family to get me a Switch, and they are, and I'm super looking forward to that.
Nice. Yeah. Very nice.
So how about you?
For me, we kind of like, my family's a little bit weird, and then we'll do some Black Friday shopping, and then that's usually, rather than waiting, we just give each other the gift at that time. So for Christmas, my family being my parents and also my wife and everybody had kind of pitched in together and got me a Surface Pro.
Nice.
Which is and that's kind of mainly for work also.
Right.
So it can help me to do more work as my home life situation has changed. And that leads me to my New Year's resolution, which is, although I still do kind of want an SNES Classic. Yeah, I still really do want an SNES Classic. And then for number 2, and Robin, actually, we're hoping to give you some of those gifts. We're hoping to have more kind of resources and available for that. But my New Year's resolution is kind of from a professional standpoint. I want to be more proactive in this kind of putting out these kind of resources, right? And as a profession, just to be as my own practice, just to be more proactive in like the scheduling and CRM stuff that we discussed in the beginning, and kind of like being more organized, because I am the type of person that could very greatly benefit from having a practice like an office manager or something like that. But until I get to that point, then it's up to me to kind of build some of those, like any self-employed individual, it's up to me to build those habits myself, right? Until I can outsource them. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that makes a ton of sense, and it's hard to do until you build the habit.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a year that I've written articles almost every week, and now it's become habit, but it was really, 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 really hard to do for a very long time.
And I think that's incredibly admirable also, so congratulations on that. I think that's huge.
It's been read by like 10 people, my articles. It's awesome. Maybe up to 15 now.
I would encourage all of you to go read it, right? We have 30 people, really? All right, so I'll encourage all of you in chat to go read it also. And definitely to go make sure you are checking that out. And I lost my train of thought.
Oh dear.
Yeah. That's okay. All right. So if I think of it, I'll post it in Discord or something like that. Right. Okay.
There you
So
go.
thank you again for all of you that are here. Thank you especially to Galen for helping me co-host this show. We definitely look forward to increasing the production value and kind of giving this the polish that we feel like this information deserves. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're working hard on it. That's
Yeah.
right.
So, and there will not be a Your Brand Your Business for the next 2 weeks, but we hope to come back in the new year strong with hopefully some really good content for you. And please feel free in the
Bigger,
meantime,
better, more
Yeah.
tangents.
more tangents. Yeah. I like that should be our tagline. Yeah. In the meantime, during this break, please feel free to go join that Discord, and give us your feedback. We'd love to hear it. All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays,
Bye, folks.
everybody.
Happy holidays.